a very good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to all of those joining us near and far, and welcome to day 3 and sadly the last day of the Global Innovation, Incubation and Entrepreneurship Summit 2021, organized by the Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade in partnership with Spartan Startup and Innovation University, Atal Incubation Center BIMTech, the Foundation for Innovation and Technology Transfer, and Startup Uttarakhand. I extend a warm welcome to our international guests for today, Dr. Nick Bradshaw and Dr. Olga Kozlova, the other dignitaries, our exhibitors, my colleagues, and dear audience. The vision of this summit is to give everybody a chance to learn how to build a business and be part of the global journey towards building a knowledge economy by 2030. The willingness and ability to innovate has become a critical prerequisite for staying internationally competitive. And you would have heard that in the past 2 days. Our business incubators and accelerators nurture the talent and ventures that form the backbone of the knowledge-driven economies of the 21st century. So based on this understanding, the Global Innovation, Incubation and Entrepreneurship Summit 2021 provides incubator and accelerator managers, corporate innovation officers, and policymakers a platform to connect and learn about the best ways to nurture innovation in their respective ecosystems. And the goal of the GIIE Summit is to create a space which is dedicated to the leaders for collaboration from across sectors and from all over the world to share, discuss, learn, and together build a more inclusive, innovation-driven economy. And our panels today will further discuss on how to create value for startups by giving access to funding, networking, program attractiveness, and through post-graduation performance. And we will kickstart this third day of the summit without any further delay. And I would like to kickstart by welcoming and introducing Dr. Nick Bradshaw, our chief guest, to address the gathering. So to give a brief introduction, Dr. Nick comes with more than 25 years of experience in the tech sector, taking complex technology propositions to market and helping customers deploy and mature enterprise collaboration software and cloud platforms. And Dr. Nick has worked in Europe, North America, and Africa with a diverse set of multi-billion-dollar global clients. He has built and exited a successful digital practice and Microsoft Gold software startup called Complexes, and has consulted with multi-tech startups building sales and marketing operations in the UK, Europe, and Africa. Post-exit of Complexes, Dr. Nick has launched the AI Media Group in 2017, which is a new hybrid media consulting and events company offering clients insights into the growing IR opportunity in Africa. AI Media are creators of Africa's largest B2B AI innovation and trade-focused community, which is called AI Expo Africa, Africa's first AI and data science magazine called Synapse, and Africa's first dedicated AI-focused streaming channel called AI TV. It's a pleasure to have you with us today, Dr. Bradshaw, and over to you.
Thanks very much, Dr. Mishma. I do appreciate the introduction and the opportunity to talk to everybody today. I'm basically going to give everybody a little bit of a brief presentation about the 4IR ecosystem in Africa, but also some of my own tips and journey around helping tech startups grow. As you mentioned in the introduction, I set up a company called AI Media here in South Africa, and essentially we're helping organizations understand the fourth industrial revolution that's occurring in our region. It's a lot bigger than people realize, and we've also helped build the largest business-focused community in this region. So essentially what we're trying to do is bring buyers and suppliers together in this market. Whether you're a startup, you may not necessarily be in this continent, you may be in India, you may be in Europe, you may be in America, you may be in Asia, but we're essentially trying to help people understand what's going on in this region. So we connect people, we share knowledge, we showcase innovation, and we like to educate people about the opportunities here and provide you with support, and at the end of the day, help you find new business. So just before, I guess, to bring everybody up on the same page, I guess Africa perhaps is seen as an area where it hasn't had its fourth industrial revolution yet. I think it's fair to say it's emerging. And there are four key centers which are driving this: Nigeria in West Africa, Egypt in the North Africa region, Kenya in the East Africa region, and then obviously South Africa in the Southern African region. And then around those main countries, you've got countries like Ghana, Tunisia, Tanzania, who are also growing their tech ecosystems. And essentially there's representation in most African countries now in terms of these new technologies and startups. If we look at the kind of products which are in demand, I mean, we did some analysis last year. So if there's any tech entrepreneurs on this session today or watching this recording, these are the top products which businesses are demanding right now. So our robotic process automation, chatbots and conversational interfaces, big data analytics and insights, and machine learning, deep learning point solutions, as well as a general move to cloud. So if you're an entrepreneur watching this session today or getting involved in this particular market, this is a great time to look at these product domains which are in demand and build a business around that. I think a classic challenge that most small businesses which are coming out of incubators and accelerators is asking the question, how long does it take for a customer to procure a typical artificial intelligence or 4IR type product? We've done some analysis on that, and essentially it's probably a lot longer than you think. If you've got a product in this space, customers are wanting to take their time and evaluate it properly. Pilots obviously have to be run. So I think one of my first kind of pieces of advice to any entrepreneur in this space is don't underestimate how long it will take to sell your product and service to a bank or an insurance company or a mining company or a retail company. It'll take a lot longer than you think. And the second thing is a lot of customers in this space are looking for help around ethics and privacy policy to do with deploying 4IR technologies. Some are doing it in-house, but a lot of them are asking for help and training and education. And actually, that's a great opportunity. And I think this is probably a universal opportunity. If you're setting up a business in this space, a lot of clients are starting to ask these questions. How do I deploy this ethically? How do I put a policy in place that helps us understand what's going on with these new technologies? I think the other important thing any entrepreneur needs to understand is that you're launching a business in a community, and it's probably a community of communities. There's lots of different players in there where there may be different opportunities or different programs that you can tap into. Some are run by bigger organizations like NVIDIA and Microsoft and Amazon. Some are run by NGOs and charities. Some are run by academia. But understand the ecosystem that you're in and network in that ecosystem, because it's very important that you kind of accelerate your journey through help and advice from other people and programs in your space. One such activity we've done is we've launched the Deal Room here in Africa, where we connect AI-focused startups with AI-focused investors. That's something we've just launched in the last 2 months. We've already had submissions going on. So there are various different ways in which you can tap into funding. Do your research, as I say, talk to your community and understand some of the opportunities which are available to you. I think the big challenge that everybody talks about in the news is the fact that the fourth industrial revolution is going to kill jobs. Well, I think the actual opposite is true. It's actually going to create jobs. And if we look at the history of employment over the last 150 years, say, for example, in America, broadly all that happens is job categories change in size over time. Some, like agriculture, decline over time as they become more automated. And then other categories like education, healthcare, telecommunications, utilities, professional services actually expand over time. Now, the great thing about 4IR technologies, particularly in terms of things like artificial intelligence, if that's something you're going to focus on, broadly is impacting all these categories broadly in a positive way. So again, it's a cross-cutting technology domain. Why is it also important, and why should you focus on it? Well, it's a high growth area, and these technologies will have the biggest impact on economic growth. So it's highly likely that you'll find funding. And then if we bring that closer to home, the kinds of skills which are in high demand in our region: cloud computing, artificial intelligence, data-driven decision making. These are the kinds of categories which, if you're not already engaged in them, they certainly are in big demand in this region. So just to conclude, these are my 5 tips to help you grow your business. I've been an entrepreneur. I still am an entrepreneur. And the first one really comes from a fellow entrepreneur who's a lot older than me, who's built many businesses over time. And the first thing he ever said to me when I asked him about funding, I had an idea for a business, was start with the end in mind. So do you want to build a lifestyle business, or do you want to build a business that you want to sell? Because your mindset and your marketing and strategy and communications will revolve around that in many respects. If you're starting with the end in mind and we want to sell the business, then clearly you need to put a growth strategy in place for that. Look at understanding who might invest in your business. Look at understanding who might want to acquire your business. Secondly, understand your niche and focus on that. I see way too many people getting drawn into, you must create a side hustle or have 2 other jobs at the same time. Fair enough, for many people that may be a necessity, and I understand that. But if you want to grow your business, you're going to have to focus on your niche and focus on it fairly ruthlessly. I think also for a small company, when I grew my first business here in South Africa, my first client was a partner, and they found clients for me. So large organizations don't necessarily have your niche in them. So large ICT services companies, large organizations that do ICT distribution, they don't necessarily have your niche, and they're good partners for you to find, who can then find you customers and then bring you in as a contractor to fill that gap, or bring you in as a supplier to fill that gap for them. That's how I launched my business here in South Africa. I think the fourth thing is whatever sales forecast you've got, cut it in half and then double the time it takes you to get the revenue in from those opportunities. I see lots of people making the mistake that they think they're going to get X amount of revenue in X amount of time. And more often than not, they've underestimated how long it will take to get that invoice paid, mainly because the customer will have a much more longer procurement and evaluation cycle. And then finally, understand your competitors. Some you can compete with, some you can't compete with because they're just too big, perhaps. But really, my advice is understand them, because at the end of the day, those competitors might be the kinds of companies that want to buy your company. So look at the competitive landscape, understand how they go to market, understand what they say about their products and services. You may be exploiting a niche they haven't identified, and then that gives you the entree to approach them at some point and then have a conversation about whether you want to partner with them, or maybe even ultimately, and this is what I found in my experience, approaching a partner ended up in me selling my business to them. It wasn't planned in that way, but at the end of the day, sometimes competitors and people that are in a market that's way bigger than your business right now can ultimately be the people that end up buying your business. If anybody wants to explore the African artificial intelligence and 4IR landscape, you're welcome to join us at AI Expo Africa this year. It's free to join as a delegate. We can also, we encourage you to speak at our conference. And if anybody wants to exhibit and have a booth, you can also have a conversation with us about that. It's purely online. It's a global event, and it's happening over 3 days on the 7th to 9th of September. So thank you very much. I wanted to keep it short, and hopefully that's been a useful introduction to some ways in which you could grow your tech business, particularly in emerging markets like we are here in the Africa landscape.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Nick. That was definitely helpful, and seeing a lot of audience who are interested in venturing into the African market. So laying out the challenges there and the opportunities that lie in the market is definitely helpful for our audience. And Dr. Nick, can you talk a bit more on what you'll do at AI Media?
Yeah, so essentially we do 4 things. First of all, we're building the African AI ecosystem. So we're helping people understand, as you can see in the logo, we're connecting the dots around the continent. There's a lot of activity across the continent. The second thing that we do is we provide industry analysis, and we do engagements, consulting engagements, so we can help introduce businesses to key people they might want to connect with, and we can provide a deeper insights into the market. The third thing is we publish a magazine called Synapse. It's available on the Issue platform, ISSW. And essentially that's Africa's only trade magazine. So if you want to understand the 4IR landscape and you want to read about it, that's a great magazine to have a look at. It's free to read, free to subscribe to. And we also do a video channel called AI TV on YouTube, which again has a whole load of interviews from thought leaders, both inside Africa and outside Africa. And the final thing we do is we run the AI Expo. So we run that event every year. It's an annual event which happens in September, and it's essentially bringing buyers and suppliers, innovators and investors, academics, governments, NGOs, all together into one event to learn about what's going on in the fourth industrial revolution in Africa.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Nick. That sounds great. And I would like to request you to kindly share the links to the AI TV and also to the magazine, so that our audience can benefit from the same. And on behalf of GCPIT, I take this opportunity to thank you for joining us today, Dr. Nick.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure.
Yeah, great. So with that, I would like to invite our next chief guest for today, Dr. Olga Kozlova. She's the Director of Innovation and Industry Engagement at the University of Strathclyde, where she is leading on enterprise commercialization and investment functions for the university and the development of the Technology and Innovation Centre zone within the Glasgow City Innovation District. And before moving to Strathclyde, Dr. Olga was the founder and director of Converge Challenge, which is a leading company creation program aimed at students, graduates, and staff of all 19 Scottish universities. Dr. Olga started a career as a Royal Society of Edinburgh Enterprise Fellow, and she then moved on to become a founder and CEO in a biotechnology startup company, and afterwards worked in business development and knowledge exchange in life sciences sector. She's an experienced mentor and non-executive director. She's also a trustee of the Youth Enterprise Scotland. So thank you for joining us today, Dr. Olga. Over to you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I first would like to say that I'm delighted to be here and share some of my knowledge and experience, and thank the organizers for inviting me to speak. So I was asked to share what I know about development and establishment of successful innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystems, and particular focus on the examples of UK and Scotland. I'm based, as I was just introduced, in Glasgow, which is the largest city in Scotland, and has 4 universities in it, one of them the University of Strathclyde. And the way I approach this talk is that I have seen what it means to be an entrepreneur when I started my biotech company nearly 20 years ago now. And at that time, there was only probably 2-3 different mechanisms of support available for startups in Scotland and very few in the UK. And I've seen it develop in the last 20 years into very vibrant and successful innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystems. And through experience of Converge, of running something national, and what I will also share, the experience of being focused on particular region, which I do now within Glasgow. So in my career, I have worked with entrepreneurs, I worked with universities, I worked with charities and government. But the sole focus has really been the translation of innovation into something real and practical, into real life, and delivery of the economic prosperity. So First of all, I don't have any slide, but what I would like to invite you to do is to imagine what a successful innovation entrepreneurship system would look like. What image would you have in your head? And I would probably think that usually people talk about their bright open plan offices, which are full of people, people sitting, talking, brainstorming in front of the whiteboards, a coffee queue where instead of looking at the mobile, people are happily chatting to each other. And all these things that in the UK and in Europe in general, we've been dearly missing for the last 10 months due to the pandemic, and what we're desperately hoping will return once the vaccines are rolled out. But in principle, this is what governments look at. They think, there is a clear evidence that innovation will play a critical role in getting us out of the economic crisis caused by this pandemic. So, but how do you make this ecosystem successful? How do you create this vibrancy, this buzz, and this kind of translation into what ultimately needs to be more companies, more jobs, better health, better communities, more prosperous communities? So in my talk, I would like to touch on 2 points. One is more kind of strategic. What are really the enablers of the successful ecosystems? And the second one is kind of more practical. What do you need to do on the ground to make them work? So on the strategic level, I would start with 2 key points. One is triple helix, and I'll explain what I mean by it. And the second one is patience. So a triple helix, ultimately the successful innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystems really thrive on the collaboration between the university sector, governments, and businesses. This partnership can bring together all the important critical elements, such as, critical mass of entrepreneurial talent, a pipeline of innovation, and availability of finance. The second one, as I said, is patience or time. It takes time for the ecosystems to grow, to evolve, to mature, similarly like a business. In the UK, we say that the startup takes about 10 years probably to get to flotation or to meaningful exit. And similarly with ecosystem, it takes it time to mature. So let's look at a little bit in more detail in each of those. And use UK as an example. UK, the governments, both national and the regional level, are really committed to innovation. The UK government has made a commitment that £22 billion will be invested by every year by 24-25 into R&D activities. And what's most important, they committed it to be spread across the country. I suppose the most famous innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem in the UK is the Golden Triangle, which is based in the southeast of England around Cambridge, Oxford, and London. This area has on its own over 8,000 high growth businesses, and it's based on example of some world leading universities such as Cambridge, Oxford, UCL, Imperial, London School of Economics, and King's College London. These universities on their own attract 46% of research funding. So the critical mass is unbelievable. And they have their specialities. London is probably more focused on the software businesses. The Cambridge and Oxford have a very prevalence of the life sciences businesses. But now there is a really strong commitment in the UK to supporting the region. There is levelling up agenda or a space agenda where the government is looking at different key clusters across the UK. For example, a fintech cluster in Edinburgh, precision medicine cluster in Glasgow, 5G cluster in Bristol and Surrey, manufacturing in Glasgow. And every location has what I've said, the triple helix. Strong presence of small and medium enterprises and tier 1 companies, government support, and very good universities. So moving to example of closer to home for me, for Scotland. Scotland is a small nation. It's 5.5 million people, but a highly educated one. 47% of people in Scotland have either a high degree or a college degree or vocational degree. And being a small nation brings its own challenges. We don't have sufficient internal market. But you can also do things reasonably quickly. You can get people around the table to make real differences. So Scottish government has made a commitment to make Scotland the most entrepreneurial organisation in the world. And what I've mentioned before, that when 20 years ago we had a couple of entrepreneurship support programs, now we have Scotland Can Do, which is really a myriad. I think a couple of years ago they counted over 90 different accelerators, incubators, competition schemes that all are focused on supporting entrepreneurship. And what they've done recently, the Scottish government has commissioned one of the founders of our first unicorn company to do an analysis of the tech ecosystem. And what he found is that our ecosystem is at the moment at a pre-tipping point, which means it's not yet completely sustainable, but it's certainly very vibrant. A lot of activities are happening, but what it needs is still additional sustained effort to deliver on its full potential. And the report makes a range of recommendations, but they cover all the areas, all the way from the primary education, all the way to university education, and to the fact, how do we find finance for our scale-up companies, which is one of the challenges we face, lots of startups, not as many scale-ups. And the way Scotland is approaching this challenge is by developing innovation district. And here, I'll tell a bit about Innovation District. I'll talk about my second part, which is about time and patience. So Innovation Districts is not a new concept. They are developing basically all the way across the world. Probably most famous are in Boston and Barcelona. But essentially, they are zones in the city center where basically public and private organizations work together to attract entrepreneurs, startups, business incubator, and deliver basically an economic rejuvenation and revitalization of the poor, deprived areas. And here I will give you an example of the first innovation district in Scotland, Glasgow City Innovation District, which is not huge. It hosts just about 2,000 businesses and around 170 hectares. So the Innovation District was first launched in 2019, just 2 years ago. We now have 3 innovation districts just in Glasgow, so you can see how kind of this has developed. But the journey of the Innovation District started in 2015, where University of Strathclyde opened its first Technology and Innovation Centre, a large building, state-of-the-art facilities, to focus on research in energy, in photonics, and pharmaceutical manufacturers. All research in the building, this 20,000 square meter buildings, was dedicated to industrial research. And it was a co-location of researchers and companies, a vibrant conference center. A year later, Glasgow City Council, which is a local authority, opened an incubator for fintech and space tech, particularly companies called Tontin, so just a short walk from there. Another couple of years later, the university bought a neighboring office building to give companies an opportunities to move and take offices for anywhere from 6 people to half a floor. And then lately, a garment factory, which is a privately owned incubator space where companies could kind of graduate forward when they needed more space, has opened in the same vicinity. So there was a what became here is a critical mass of expertise. And what is good about Glasgow City Innovation District is that it's located dead in the city centre. It has next to 2 train stations, easy access to the airport, easy access to the road network. Plus, what it offers is also an opportunity not just to work, but to kind of, as I say, live and play. The merchant city, which is full of restaurants, bars and pubs and shops, is within the innovation district itself. And next to this area, which is very vibrant, there are some of the most deprived areas of Glasgow. And there is real feeling that we could contribute and makes not just economic impact to the area, but social impact, which becomes more and more important. What also is there is there is a combination of what we call research translational organizations, which are there to support the translation of innovation from universities into companies. So we're now at the phase 2 of the development of the innovation district. We're looking to build 2 new buildings, a £150 million project, where collocation of industry and academia will thrive in areas of health tech, of fintech, of quantum, of 5G, industrial informatics, and space. So you can see from there that it took us 5 years to get where we are, and we're planning on another 5 years to take us probably to the level of Boston and Barcelona. Now that I've covered kind of what I feel are the enablers and the strategic areas, I want to share very briefly some of the very practical things that I've learned of starting the ecosystem. The buildings are important, brick and mortars, it's all great. But what we need and what makes innovation ecosystems actually work is opportunities for serendipity. And by that, I mean serendipity is a magic dust. It's an opportunity to meet an investor when you're queuing for a coffee. It's sitting to your tier 1 customer when you're at a conference. It's a chance meeting of 2 founders. But that doesn't happen on its own, initially at least. There needs to be, every innovation ecosystem needs a really sustained program of activities, of meetups, of beer and pizza night, of conferences, etc. And we are doing it in Strathclyde through the new entrepreneurship strategy called Strathclyde Inspire, which basically aims for university to provide support at any type of entrepreneurial journey from the very beginning, where the idea is just germinated, all the way to scale up and finance. The second aspect I would like to say is marketing. There's so much happening in the world of entrepreneurship. It's a very busy place. So unless there is very clear message what it is that you're offering, and there is a well-oiled marketing machine behind it, it's very difficult to get noticed. I mean, in Glasgow, we certainly know that we might not yet be MIT, but we have a lot to offer. Very good healthcare, very good educational system, fantastic facilities, very close to nature, good quality of life. And we're taking this offering all the way to the global stage. And I will finish with one last, I suppose, comment, which is I want to talk about culture. I would say that Scottish culture is very well known for its inventiveness. MRI scanner, penicillin, the steam engine, even the automatic teller machine we take cash from, were all invented in Scotland. Well, Scotland is less known for making money out of it. And I suppose we are great inventors and maybe not that great entrepreneurs as yet. But entrepreneurial mindset can be taught. And it can be taught, and it takes, as I said, time to change this culture, but it's absolutely doable. And I will give an example of the University of Strathclyde. We have a very entrepreneurial principal, which is called Sir Jim MacDonald. And his vision, sometimes he describes Strathclyde as 200-year-old startup. The university is the leading technological university. It's a place of useful learning. Its values are around being bold, ambitious, innovative, people-centric. So it's a really clear message how important the entrepreneurial mindset is for us. And what the university managed to achieve in the last 10 years is to completely embed industrial collaboration in its curricula and in this research and kind of in our other activities. It's doubled its income in research, it's more than doubled its industry income, and now it's the 3rd largest university of Scotland. So things like this can be done with effort and with giving it a bit of time and passion. So at that point, I will stop. Thank you very much. And if you want to get in touch with me, then just direct message me on Twitter at Olga Innovation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Olga. And indeed, that gave us, quite a picture of the innovation ecosystems and some of the, aspects into setting them up. What would you say is the biggest challenge any innovation ecosystem faces?
I think that I would compare it probably to the startup. When you are at the very beginning and you're not maybe potentially very well known, how do you get this critical mass? And I think the answer is collaboration. We say sometimes in Scotland it takes a village to create a successful company. I would say it takes more than a village to create a successful ecosystem, and it's about sharing your resources, sharing your successes, and I suppose having I liked Nick's message. You have to know what the end point is, because it's a vision you get by. So collaboration is absolutely key for it.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Olga. And that definitely aligns with our motto of replacing competition with collaboration. So with that, once again, on behalf of GCPIT, I extend my heartfelt gratitude towards Dr. Nick and Dr. Olga for joining us today and for such a great address to the gathering. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
And audience, we're going to... Thank you. Pleasure having you all with us today. And audience, with that, we're going to take a short break and come back with the panel discussion. So do stay with us and see you at the other end. Thank you so much.